Welcome to Transitions Throughout the Day, Strategies, Skills, and Wisdom from Satellite Programs. My name is Grace Eilers. I am the Family Child Care Content Specialist at Satellite Family Child Care System, and I will be your facilitator today. You will also hear from Terry Lynn Alexander, a Family Child Care Program owner, through the form of a video interview. And you will also hear from our featured panel tonight, who I will let introduce themselves. And I will pause sharing my screen so you can see all of them nice and big. We'll start with Allison. Do you want to introduce yourself? We can go in alphabetical order.
Sure. So my name is Allison and I am located out in Sun Prairie. So I don't know if there's anything else particularly.
No, that's good. That's
Okay.
good. You're a family child care professional?
Yes, out in Sun Prairie.
Yes. Thank you, Allison. Brandy?
Hi, I'm Brandy Crabb. I'm here in Madison as a child care provider as well.
Thanks, Brandy. And Maria?
Hola, buenas noches. Yo soy María.
Hello, good evening. I'm Maria Sandoval, and I work in Pitchbowl.
Gracias, Maria.
Mhm.
Mary Jo?
Hi, good evening. My name is Mary Jo Faloka. I run a family daycare just south of Madison in the Stoughton, Wisconsin area.
Thanks, Mary Jo. Shannon?
Hi, good evening. My name is Shannon Davis, and my program is located in Verona with children birth to 5.
Welcome. All right. So now that we've heard from all of the voices we're going to hear from today, let's talk about what are the questions that we're going to answer by the time that our event is over tonight. And these are those questions. We're hoping that you will walk away with a better understanding of how smooth, supportive transitions impact children's development. 2, we're also going to learn strategies on how to plan and establish those predictable, consistent routines and individualize them in your program. And 3, our last and largest part of this event, we're going to talk about strategies, how you can support children throughout those daily transitions, those group transitions that are inevitable and happen throughout every day. So let's define what we mean when we talk about transition. Transitions it's the process of moving from one activity to another. So this could also be moving from one environment to another, one context to another, one experience. And these can be very big, life-altering transitions, such as the transition from preschool to kindergarten, or they can be small. And today we're going to focus on those small, everyday transitions that happen throughout the day. So, for example, in the photo here, you see a child who is engaged in tummy time on the floor, exploring with a ball. The transition, the process is going to be now that child is going to have a meal. So that's the overarching process, moving from playing to now a meal. And routines, those are those individual steps. What's going to happen, the how of getting from one point to another. So the transition's overarching process, and those routines are the how of getting there. Routines are a huge component of transitions, and we're going to dive deeper into that. But what are the steps? For this example here, the child who is on the floor, there are so many things that have to happen for that child to then be ready to consume a meal. So they have to wash their hands, which has lots of different steps involved in that. They have to get their hands wet. They have to scrub. They have to get soap. They have to dry their hands. Then they're probably going to have to get in some sort of chair. And there's steps involved in that as well. They're going to have to get buckled and get their legs through. And then they'll have to get a bib on of some sort, depending on the child's age. And so forth and so forth. So routines are all of those individual steps that happen when you move from one activity to another. And we're going to all together to put this in more of something, parallel it to like what it might feel like as an adult. We're going to talk through a scenario together right away. So imagine, here's our first scenario. Imagine you're on your way to the grocery store. You're on the way to the store and your objective, you're going to get groceries for a week of meals. Okay, so you're given a list in this first scenario. You're given a list of the ingredients, each ingredient that you need, and the amount of each item that you need. And you're on your way to the grocery store that you shop at regularly. But if you forget or you don't know where something is, the aisles are clearly labeled. So in this scenario, with your list of ingredients, the amount of each, going to a regular store that you shop at, you're going to probably, how would you feel in this situation? Probably feel pretty confident and well equipped that you're going to go in, get your groceries, and get out in a timely manner. So that's our first scenario. Now, everyone clear your mind, because we have a second scenario. You are still on your way to the store to get groceries for a week of meals. It's the same overarching goal. But this time, you're only given a list of the meals that you need to get groceries for. And you are visiting a grocery store that you've never shopped at before, and the aisles are not labeled. How would you feel in this situation? You probably, if you're like me, are going to feel feelings of, you're going to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, angry, lost. I see in the chat, horrible, lost, more stressed. Yeah. If you're like me, you probably are going to want to hop in the car and head home and just forget the whole thing. And this is just a short mind exercise to get us thinking about what children may be feeling like during transitions. Because in transitions, children are ultimately given an end goal, similar to the end goal in this scenario where you're getting groceries for a week of meals. And they have a goal to achieve, moving from one activity to another, whether it be from snack to playing, lunch to nap time, diapering to playing again, so forth. Children have tasks that they must complete. And when there is not well-established, predictable routines where children feel confident, I know what to do, I know what's expected of me, and maybe if I don't know, there are reminders and people I know who can help me get through this, they are probably going to feel those real feelings that you might have felt in the second scenario of being overwhelmed, frustrated, and angry. And it's important to note that how you might approach that second scenario of being dropped in a grocery store you've never been to before with only a list of meals, how you approach that is going to be dependent on your individuality and your past experiences. So some of you here today, you go shopping at lots of different types of grocery stores regularly. You're going to feel way more comfortable asking for help if you need it, maybe. Some of you could cook more meals, and maybe you have a better understanding of what ingredients you may need for the meals on your list. And this is very similar to children. Children are coming to you with all different types of past experiences, temperaments, those individual characteristics, whether it be infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and school agers. And this is why predictable transitions with consistent routines promote children's development. And we're going to highlight cognitive development being one area that research has shown that predictable transitions with those consistent routines promote. So more specifically, researchers find that children have a better understanding of cause and effect relationships. So the relationship between two events or actions. They also are better able to understand sequencing or order of events. And children in environments with consistent daily routines, they're better able to understand what comes next in their day because it's predictable and they've had lots of practice with it. It also research shows that consistent daily routines promote executive functioning skills. And those are skills like inhibition, working memory, attention, self-control. And researchers found that the establishment of routines when a child's, say, 30 months old, that's connected to enhanced delayed gratification when that child is 5. And delayed gratification is the ability to wait for something that's rewarding. So it has real impact on a child's development in cognitive development. But it also supports social and emotional development. The presence research has found that the presence of routines when a child is only 14 months old led to improvements in children's self-regulation by the time they were 3. It also serves as a protective factor because it helps establish predictability. And therefore, it enhances children's emotional security and trust and independence. Children who experience predictable, consistent routines, they also exhibit heightened cooperation. So they're going to have more cooperation and compliance, and they're just going to demonstrate an increased willingness to participate in daily life, which again, as all of you know, that active engagement is essential for children's development and learning. Now, with all that being said, we are going to now hear from Terry Lynn Alexander on why predictable routines are important for toddlers specifically. Terry Lynn is going to expand on this for us.
If you follow a daily routine with your toddlers, they have a tendency to know exactly what comes next because toddlers use time as a sequence and not as a, oh, look, the sun came up. But they don't look at the clock, but they know what comes next if you are sequencing it for them. So they know that they play, they know that they eat what I call second breakfast because they're toddlers and they're going to eat a huge amount. And they've already had a smoothie at home. They know that they get diaper changes, but then they know that they go to circle time. And after all the singing we do, they're feeling pretty darn happy because they get to pick their songs, they get to pick their stories. And I get to pick one too if I want to teach them something new. And then when we're done with that, we sing another song that tells them to put on their shoes and they know that they're going outside. So we get everything on and of course something will happen and go awry and it'll all fall apart and then we come back together and get everything on again. Oh wait, we lost that shoe. Get that shoe on, up the stairs and out the door. A lot of times in the winter, we'll sing the song and I will gather things up into a big basket and they can throw their boots in it. They can throw their snow boots in and they can throw their hats and mittens into that big basket that we carry up the stairs and sit on the big rug upstairs where they can see the outside. Because downstairs, they don't see the outside. I mean, the big windows, yes, but not the same. They don't know where they're going. Even if they do know that they're actually supposed to be going there, they're not ready to go there. So if they go up the stairs, then they can put their things on and they can see what the next step is. And yes, we have books and we have toys up there to keep one occupied while the other one is getting snowsuit or refusing to get a snowsuit. Okay, you're not ready. Let's try something else.
So we learned why smooth transitions are important for children's development. Now let's think through how you can individualize them in your family child care program. And we're going to hear from Terry Lynn again, and then we're going to see an example and hear from our featured panel members.
The first transition you get with any child is when the parent arrives. So they come in and you're talking to the small one and to the parent at the very same time because of course they have things to tell you about how their morning has gone. And the little one wants to show off something that will get you looking at them. But then when the parent leaves, they all have different routines that are usually developed by the child and the parent together. I had one that sang a special song. I had a little one that usually arrived before everybody else. Their dad brought her by bike, so she would want to take off her helmet, and then she would want to go to the window upstairs to, because our childcare is in the basement. She wanted to go to the window upstairs to wave goodbye. I have one that comes and he needs to see the wheels of his dad's car roll out of the driveway. He's not happy unless he can see those wheels roll out of the driveway. He could see them from that basement window. So he watches that and his dad will stop and wave from outside. Other ones will have like a special kiss that they use. So anything to get them really comfortable and in place before mom and dad leave.
So now we are going to witness an arrival together. This was captured at Waddle Inn Family Child Care. And watch how Brandy, who is one of our featured panel members, invites this child into her program.
Good morning.
How are you, Nora? She's good. Little Miss June was waiting for you this morning. She was looking for you. June loves Nora. Just loves her. She seeks her out and just smiles at her constantly. Did you sleep good last night?
She did. She got up at like one time, so that's not bad for her.
No.
I love you. Oh. And she's been up giving all the animals treats and water and taking care of them this morning, so she is.
Wow. I told you she loves Nora. She loves you. You ready?
Have a good day, baby. I love you.
Have a great day. Let's throw this away. Thank you. You're gonna get in line to wash your hands. Hey, sweetness. You ready? No hands, huh? See you later, Mom. Love you. June was looking at your mom's car, too. You thought you might go the other way?
We're going to hear from our featured panel, and I will pause momentarily so that we can see all of their faces. And we're going to hear from Brandy first to tell us about expand on this. How do you individualize your routines in your program?
Well, every child is different. And I think that as we get to know each child in our care, we know what they need, what supports they might need, what they like, what they don't like. For instance, with the hand washing, Nora knows how to do her own. She can wash her own hands. She does it well. The little one that was the little guy going in after her he can wash his hands. He can do all the steps, but he's pretty unimodal. He needs to have me tell him each step to start it as we go along, because otherwise he's in there for quite some time. So that's one way to individualize a routine. And I think really as we develop a relationship with the children and we honor them as people, then we understand their needs and it goes so much more smoothly.
Thank you, Brandy. We'll have Maria.
Sí. Hola. Perdón, perdón.
I
Bueno, yo
apologize.
estaba comentando hace un momento de
I
que
was telling
yo
you
las
before
transiciones,
that
recuerdo
transitions,
cuando yo era
I
muy
remember
niña que iba
when
a
I
la
was a
escuela
kid, I
y me
was
tocaba
going to my school
tenía
and I
clase de
was
arte
having my
los
art
miércoles.
lessons on
Y esa clase
Wednesday.
a mí me
And during
encantaba,
that
entonces
lesson, I really enjoyed
trataba
that
de que
lesson.
contaba yo los días
And I
para
was
el momento
counting
de
the
la
days
clase y
to
cuando
join my
sabía
art
que íbamos a
lesson.
hacer el
And when
cambio
I
para la
know
clase, era muy
by that
emocionante.
moment
Entonces,
of
yo
taking
trato
the
de hacer
lesson, I
eso con
was
los
excited.
niños,
So
con
basically,
mi
I just tried
grupo.
to do the same
Trato de
with
que
my
cada vez
kids, with
que
my
hago
group. So
una
every
transición
time
sea algo
the
que a ellos
transition is
les
taking
agrade.
place,
Y
I
después
just
ellos
do my best. So
solitos
this could be
ya saben
something
más o
for
menos el tiempo.
excitement. So they know
Y
the
bueno,
time
mis niños vienen desde
basically.
muy bebecitos,
So they
así
are
que
coming in the early years
cuando son
of
como de
their
2 años
life,
más o
or
menos,
perhaps when they are
ya
2 years
no,
old
ya no,
approximately.
realmente ellos me
The
piden
situation is
que
changing
vamos a
because
hacer este
actually they are asking
cambio,
me, oh,
que
listen,
vamos a hacer
let's
este, lo
do
otro,
this
y me
change, or let's
preguntan, y
change
mañana
this
vamos a
and that.
hacer
And they are asking me, oh, listen, are
lo
we
que
going to do the
hicimos
same
la
tomorrow?
semana pasada,
Or what we
y digo,
did
oh,
last
sí,
week, are
cierto,
we
ya
going to
tenemos,
repeat
y
it?
con
Or yes,
dibujitos
yes,
sabemos
yes,
que es
are
el
we going to
tiempo,
draw?
y más o
And
menos
we know the
con
time and the
canciones,
agenda and the
empezamos como
activities, and we
por
have
la
the
mañana
songs, and we
saludando
start
y
in the
ya sabemos que
morning, we greet
vamos a ir a
each
lavar las
other,
manos y les
we
digo,
shake their
les
hands.
hago como señas y digo,
I
ahora
just
que nos
basically use
toca,
my
dicen
hands
lavar las
to just give
manos
a
y
sign, and they
vamos
already
todos
know
a
that
lavar
they
las
need to
manos.
wash their
Y
hands.
y por ejemplo,
And
cuando van a
for
comer, pues yo
instance, when they are going to
cocino
eat, I
y pongo
prepare
a calentar
food.
la comida y ellos ya
So
están
food
oliendo.
is going
Entonces
to
dicen,
the
oh,
oven,
huele
and
a
they
sopa,
smell,
ya
and
va a
they
ser
see
la
like,
hora de la
oh,
comida, ya
I smell
tenemos
soup,
hambre.
so food
Y,
is ready, and we are
y tenía un
starving.
niño que
We
me
are
decía,
hungry. I remember that there was a
Mari,
kid, and they
Mari,
were. He was
¿qué
saying,
vamos a
"Man,
comer? Ya
Maria,
es la
what are we
hora. Y
going
yo,
to
oh,
eat?
cierto, ya es
It's
la
time
hora.
for
Bueno,
eating."
¿qué nos toca hacer?
So
Pues
what are we going to do?
vamos a lavar manos, vamos a
Well,
lavarnos
let's
las
go
manos.
and let's
Y es bien, o sea, es
wash
muy
our
divertido
hands.
porque
So that's
desde
quite funny,
bebecitos
definitely, because
ellos
since they are
usan todos sus sentidos, el
kids, they are
olfato,
using their
las
senses,
manos,
this
el
the
hablar. Y
smelling capacity, this
de hecho es bien
speaking
importante
capacity.
hablar mucho
So
con los
it is
niños.
key
A mí siempre me
speaking
dicen,
to
ay, es que usted
kids.
habla bastante
And people
y
are
los
telling me,
niños
oh, listen,
también
Maria,
y
you're speaking
cantan
too much.
muchísimo.
And the kids are
Pero
doing the same, and they are
yo
singing.
leí una vez
And I
una
was
nota que
reading
decía
a note that
el
was
desarrollo en los niños
stating that
también,
the kids'
cuando ellos
development,
duermen,
when they are sleeping,
sueltan la hormona del crecimiento
the
y
growing
también de su
hormone is
desarrollo,
released,
de
as well as the
todo lo
development
que ellos van
hormone is also
a
released,
hacer
as
después de que
well as
despiertan de
all
su
the
siesta.
particles that will
Entonces,
help
si los
to
niños
the growing
no
of
hablamos,
kids.
no
So if
canto,
we are not
no
speaking,
interactúo
if
mucho
we are
con
not
ellos,
singing,
ellos
if
no van a
there
saber.
is not
Entonces yo
any
siempre trato
interaction,
de
so what are
estar
we going to do?
hablando y
So
diciéndoles
once
todo
again,
el
this is
tiempo
key, and this
y
is the
vamos a
reason
hacer
why I
esto y
am
vamos a hacer lo
insisting
otro y ellos,
on
cada uno tiene
speaking and doing
su
this
cuaderno
and that.
y desde
My kids,
bebecitos, o sea,
they
ponen
have
sus
their
piecitos
book notes,
y luego el
and
dedito y
they
empiezan con el
are
dedito
touching
y
their
están
feet,
chiquitos y ya
and
saben que van a
they
colorear y
and they
ponen su
do
dedito
know
y
that they
están
are
así.
going to drop and to
Entonces,
paint,
a
and
mí
that
se
they're
me
going to
hace
use the
muy
colors.
fácil para
So for
cambiar
me,
mis
it's a piece of
transiciones
cake when I'm
porque
dealing with my
ellos
transitions,
realmente no necesitamos como
because we do not
estar como
need
repitiendo,
to be
repitiendo, sino que lo
repeating
hacemos
and on
como
and on and on. So
una
basically for
rutina de
us,
diario,
this is like a
de
daily
cada día.
routine for us.
Es lo de la mañana
In
y
the
no se hace
morning,
pesado el
we
día
have our
y los niños se
activities,
divierten mucho.
and
Y
kids
siempre trato
are
de
happy.
hacer muchas cosas nuevas, ¿no? Como
And I
no
just try to
podemos
do
salir a
new
jugar
things.
afuera
I
porque
mean, we
está muy
cannot go
frío,
out
entonces
because
meto
perhaps it's
nieve
cold.
y
So I
vamos a jugar
just
con la nieve,
take some
¿sí?
snow, and then
Y
we
cosas
start playing
así.
with the snow.
Entonces
And this
ellos
is
me
what we
dicen,
do.
¿puedes
So they
traer
are telling
nieve
me, oh,
para jugar?
listen, can you
Sí,
bring
porque
some
hoy no
snow
podemos
so we
salir,
can
está
play?
muy frío.
Sure, I
Voy
can
a
do it,
traer
but of course
nieve
we
y
cannot go
jugamos.
out because it's
Entonces,
freezing
para
outside.
mí es
So
muy
for us,
fácil cuando
it's
los
a
niños
piece of
tienen una
cake
rutina, inclusive
when
con
kids
nuestros
have a
propios
routine, or
hijos.
even with our
Y eso
kids.
es.
So that's it.
Thank you, Maria. And we'll talk more about different sensory inputs for reminding children, what comes next in our day. So thank you. And next, we'll hear from Shannon.
Yeah, thank you. you. I guess When I was thinking about the individual routines, I kind of was thinking, because I have children of such a big range from birth to 5, that it's kind of like a little bit of a dance, just understanding each individual child's temperament and also their daily routine. You know, there's the children that come in the morning that are so sleepy still and not really ready to start their day. So they're the ones that just need a lap to sit in to welcome them in the morning. Or, you know, the ones that fly in the door and have 10 million stories to tell you and they just want an ear to listen to. Or, you know, the readers, the first thing they want is a book in the morning. And so, as a provider, just being set up and ready to go for each of those different personalities and what they need at that time of the day. Um, you know, like another huge transition obviously is after you eat right before nap time, and some children are just crashing and burning, and you know that that transition routine for them is going to be very difficult because their mind is not capable of processing what needs to be done. They really just need to lay down, and so my expectations for them at that point are not as high as say some of my older children who aren't necessarily in need of a nap, but they are the leaders and the helpers, and just encourage them to, you know, clean up or prepare their areas based on what their abilities are. Um, and just kind of like what motivates them. You know, there's the children that have a super competitive edge, and so they're the ones that will say, you know, I can clean this up faster than you. And so, okay, great, like I will encourage that competition at that point. Go for it, guys. Or, you know, the ones that actually need the hand holding, you know, the ones that go boneless on the floor that can't do anything at that moment. So they might need you to come and help them by taking their hand and saying, can you pick this up and let's go put it away together. And so it's just kind of that dance of knowing when children are in their optimal, ability, and when the expectation needs to be lowered a little bit, and what you can do to help and encourage them at that point.
Thank you, Shannon. And we'll hear next from Mary Jo.
I agree with what everybody else has been talking about. The example that I want to talk about is the hand washing, because I have a group of toddlers, an infant, and a nonverbal 2.5-year-old. So when we're going into the bathroom and we're washing hands, I have activities for the other kids that are not up on the step stool washing their hands, so that they are busy and are doing something. And then the person that comes up to wash their hands, it depends on the age and how motivated that person is. So I'll go through the steps and I'll say, okay, so what's the first thing? What's the second thing? And so it's a matter of just seeing whether or not that person has remembered from the last time. And you can kind of gauge the growth of that child, because they really want to be able to do it all by themselves. So again, it depends on the age and the temperament and whether or not that person is really motivated. Sometimes you have to kind of say, okay, well, in order for us to be able to all eat, we all need to have washed our hands. So it tends to motivate everyone, especially when they're all hungry.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Anyone want to add anything before we continue on? Okay, we're going to hear from Terry Lynn again, and Terry Lynn is going to give us another example of how you may individualize routines for children.
Nap time comes after lunch, which means there's lunch, there's a little bit of cleanup of all the rice that is stuck to the floor because I hate walking on it. We brush our teeth, we go get books. We read a lot of books. I set up their portable cribs if they're babies, but if they're toddlers and they're on cots, they will help get out their own cots. They'll find their blankets, they'll find their pillows, they'll find their little stuffed animals that they have. They each choose a book. I choose a book. They may choose 2 books. It's okay. We get all the reading done. It calms their bodies. They get set on their cots or in their cribs, usually with a book or a toy. And then I will rock each one of them for a couple of minutes, and they all have particular lullabies. So they know what their songs are, and sometimes they will sing the same songs that mom sings at home, and sometimes they will sing one that's just meant for them. So they'll have 2, sometimes 3 lullabies, depending on if they're long or short ones. So they get that few minutes of just being the only child in the world in a great big daycare, right? Well, not that big because mine is tiny, but they get those few minutes and then they get set in their crib, whether they're awake or asleep. And then the next one gets there a few minutes. The next one gets there a few minutes. And they know the routine of their songs. They know which songs are theirs and they know which ones are their friends. So they will wait fairly quietly, believe it or not, for their turn because they know that their songs are coming. And then we try to get everybody settled. They go to sleep. Sometimes they don't. And sometimes you have that child, we turn on the music after I'm done singing. To each one of them, they stay in their cribs. Sometimes you have that child that doesn't know how to sleep very well that day, and you need to rock them a second time and just hold them really close. That's nap time.
Some great examples of how you can, as what our panel members were saying, see each child as an individual and respect all of their wants and needs and manage that in a mixed age group, which is challenging. So that was just another way that Terry Lynn does that in the transition to nap time. So we are going to talk through an example together just about the brain power that's required just to move through a very, very small portion of a child's morning, from arrival, from the time they get there to breakfast. So I would encourage all of you to just, let's think about, put ourselves in the child's shoes and think through all that is expected of them to know and to do between arrival and breakfast. So arrival. Entering your program, saying goodbye to their family member and hello to you. Young children rely on their trusted adults. So children must make that switch when they arrive at your program from mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever dropped them off, to now you as their educator. So goodbyes are emotional. It stirs up that fight or flight response for a child. Now the child has to, enter the program. They have to say hello after saying goodbye. And now they have a lot of decisions to make. In our theoretical morning here, the child is entering in free play, which I would assume many of you do this in your program, where the child has options on what to engage with early in the morning. And they have decisions they have to make. Okay, looking around, what do I play with? Who should I play with? Who's here today? What's available for me? What are my options? And they have to begin and engage in play. And during this time, if that child has to go to the bathroom or get a diaper change, those are also even more transitions that are being put on the child that they must go through and they must experience. And now next in our theoretical schedule throughout the day, this program does a circle time or morning meeting or just a group book, whatever you want to call it, a time where children are expected to come together and participate in some sort of community-based activity. So the child must know, okay, now it's time to clean up. I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to pause my play. I have to pick up my toys and my materials and remember where they go. I have to know where this circle time happens, what we're going to do, where do I sit, how am I expected to sit. Now I have to stay regulated through this group activity. So imagine the brain power, again, that is everything that's going on for a child just in throughout these few transitions. And then after that meeting, after a circle, there's another transition to breakfast, which is a whole other ball game. So now children, they now are expected to go wash their hands. They have to get soaped. They have to rinse. They have to dry their hands. They have to find a seat at the table. Maybe they have cups and plates that they have to get. And for us adults, all of these things seem so automatic because they are. And it's not necessarily the case for most children unless they have had extensive practice with consistent expectations and routines throughout their day. And again, this is just a very, very small portion of a child's morning. So we just talked through a lot of different things that are happening for a child when they transition. It is no wonder why they are often so exhausted at the end of the day. Now, with that being said, we are going to consider these questions. So this is, I prefaced in the beginning that you'll have an opportunity to get together with peers, your family child care or early childhood professional peers, and talk through, consider some of these questions. So we're just going to take 10 minutes just to pause, grab those daily schedules that you brought, and look at your day through that transition lens. And if you would like to talk with your peers again, there are a few optional breakout rooms that you can join. We will have our panel members also be scattered throughout them if you'd like to bounce some ideas off of them. If you have a particular transition that feels challenging and you'd like to talk through that. Or if you would like to just spend this time, if you work better individually, reflecting on these questions. So I'm going to read them. And Laura Cruz has a handout that you can, that she will send in the chat momentarily, and you'll be able to access these questions and read through them as a group or individually. So I'm going to read them right now. So consider these questions. Are there certain times of day that feel more challenging? How many transitions do you have throughout the day? Are routines and expectations consistent? What is the purpose of each transition on your schedule? How much time do you allocate for each transition? And an important one, if you know, think about what do transitions for children look like at home? So those are our questions. Again, this is just a space for you to pause, to reflect, and these are optional if you would like to join and speak with our panel members and speak with others who have joined today. We'll take 10 minutes for this. Just a moment of pause, time to talk through things with others, thinking about your day through a transition lens. And now we're all going to transition together into our next section, our biggest section. What are some techniques that we can offer you, that you have, that you can offer others as the educator supporting children through transitions? And we're going to talk about a few of them. We're going to hear from our featured panel again. So the first is shared responsibility. So thinking about what can they be responsible for during transitions so that they can have an active role in the process? So thinking about it from that wide program level. Are there ways that you can incorporate unique and interesting jobs for children to do during those transition periods? So could children be responsible for setting the table, serving food, cleaning up, as you can see a few examples here on the slide? Do you have a child who it's their job when you're going outside, they're carrying the water bottles? Or the shoe bin, the bin of boots? That's one child's job that they have to do. Maybe you have a child that comes in every morning and they change the weatherboard and they're the weatherman for the day. In the middle here, you have an example of an I'm here board. So can this be a part of arrival and departure? Children checking themselves in and out. a job to help the transition go smoothly, that shared responsibility in a program. And jobs are very program specific, and they're going to be unique to the children, to your program, your philosophy, and the children that you have. So with that being said, do you have any jobs that you have children perform during transitions that work well for you? So please put those answers in the chat. Any of those shared responsibilities? Social says water the garden, washing tables. Line leader says Danielle. Tracy has children clean tables during after meals and snacks. Children clear the table themselves, help to wipe tables, set the tables, and hand out water bottles. Wow, lots of ideas. Heavy work, Jennifer says, for my sensory kiddos. Saba says, cleaning up toys. That is their job. Thank you, Carmelo. There are a lot in here. I would encourage all of you, click on the chat if you haven't found it already, the conversation bubble at the bottom of your screen, and start reading through, respond to, and react to some of the comments that move you and that you want to start a conversation about. This is a place to do that. I'll pull out a couple more and then we'll keep going with some more strategies. Kate says turning on and off the lights or setting out carpet squares for circle time. And Brandy says, I have a helper every day. The helper washes their hands first, sets the table, and gets to pick out the first book. These are all great, unique, and fun, and it's going to keep your children engaged throughout the transition process. Thank you. If you're still typing, please continue. But we're going to move along with our second strategy that we'll be talking about today. Choices. Offering choices is another strategy to use to help engage children in the process. And this is particularly for when transitions feel challenging. So if you think about it, young children, they have almost their entire lives determined by somebody else, and this includes their daily schedule. So offering the chance for children to take back some of that power and control that they need in their day, that's going to help increase their cooperation. And this is actually backed by research, particularly that choice helps support children's self-regulation and their self-help skills. So provide choices in a structured way. And depending on age, you're going to want to limit it to, say, maybe 1 or 2 choices to not overwhelm them. And here on the slide, we have some examples. You can see, as Terry Lynn will talk about, just the option, the choice to choose a bib. What bib are you going to wear for the little ones? Or what seat are you going to sit at? That's going to help provide children that sense of independence, that they have the choice to decide and determine some aspect of their day. And even naming that, say, oh, it's time for snack. I wonder what seat you're going to choose or what bib you're going to choose. And if me saying that, you're thinking, well, there's a favored seat or a bib that's favored, and you're worried about that offering choice could cause conflict, know that those are moments for children to sit with those uncomfortable feelings in a manageable way with support from you, and to practice delayed gratification, or having to wait until tomorrow or next snack or next time we read a story to get the preferred option. And if you're an educator that does group time in your program and you struggle to engage all of your children, why not offer the choice in the book or the song that you sing. You can see here on the slide, well, we have a stack of books to signal different book options, which all of you have in your programs, but also visuals of songs that children can choose. If maybe they're younger, they have limited verbal skills, they can point or verbalize what song they would like to choose during their group time. Another one on here is one I stumbled across because as a Head Start teacher, the soap that we were using was really harsh on my hands. So I had to bring in another type of soap that was more gentle on my hands. And I was amazed, lo and behold, just offering another type of soap for a child who really struggled to wash their hands. It was very, very hard for them to go up and go through the steps of washing their hands. Just offering the choice, which soap are you going to choose? It just completely increased their motivation to cooperate and then participate in the rest of the day. It's as if they were saying, oh, I do want to wash my hands because I want that soap. So offering choices can help, especially when it feels challenging. Visual cues. Visual cues support children to move from one activity to another through the individual steps of a routine. And this is especially true for children with autism, as Waters, Lerman, and Hovnitz found in 2009, actually. So showing a child who may struggle to transition an image and then saying it verbally, that is now 2 sensory inputs. They're going to be seeing it and they're going to hear it. And visuals, those have staying power. So here we have some examples on the slide that I'm going to go through, starting all the way to the left. So these are sequencing. I'm sure the hand washing one looks familiar because I assume most of you have a hand washing sequence visual in your program. This can be helpful to guide children through the process and just give them those nonverbal reminders that they need. Similarly, why not have one for getting ready to go outside, especially in winter? And it can be either top down or from left to right, and showing children those individual steps that you don't even need to give a verbal reminder, you could just point to it. The middle image here shows transition visual cards that can be printed and then put on a ring so that for prompting children. So you go over to a child and you show them the visual and you say, it's time to lie down, or it's time to wash hands. So that can be helpful because that's those 2 sensory inputs now that they're giving them. And the visual has staying power. It's not going away. And another technique too is to have the visual that you show the child, the same visual that matches it in the place, their destination, where they're going. So you have the wash hands visual that you're showing them for a transition that may feel hard. You're going to have that same visual over by the sink that they're going to have to carry over and match and achieve that goal. So again, just prompting through the use of visual cues. And for when transitions are particularly challenging, such as going from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity, you can show the child what comes next. So that is all the way on the right, top right here, you see a first, then board. So for example, you would put first we wash our hands, then we eat apples. And you would have visuals to go on each of those sides. And another technique is to use visual timers. So those on the bottom left-hand side, you can see those have different times that you can flip them and children can see the time disappearing. So those can, again, be those verbal cues to children when you're giving warnings. When it feels hard to stop playing because you need a diaper change, use a visual timer, flip it over, and let the child know when the timer is done, it'll be time to change your diaper. So again, incorporating multiple sensory inputs to help give children as much information as possible to know, so that they know what is expected of them. And you will receive all of these resources here in English and Spanish in a follow-up email that will go out later this week. And now we are going to hear more from Terry Lynn. Make sure that the volume is all the way up for this one.
after drop off, we have a lot of free play. So it's like we've got the sensory table, we've got the books, we've got all the toys, we've got little trapeze things they can swing on. And sometimes we have a child that really needs a diaper change before breakfast. And so you have to interrupt to play, which they really don't like. And so you give them a warning and you talk to them and you pick them up and either walk them to or pick them up and carry them to the changing table, depending on just how spaghetti-legged they have gone on you. And wash hands that way. But when we get to mealtime, everybody comes in and washes their hands. Sometimes those little independent toddlers will, saunter their way in and say, self, I'm going to do it all by myself. Okay, you can do it all by yourself. But let's remember to rub those hands a little bit, right? And sometimes they need one song, sometimes they need a different song. Sometimes they are pretty sure that no wash. No, no wash. Well, we do need to wash, but no wash. So, well, do you want to walk there by yourself? Do you want me to carry you there? Do you want to go to this sink or do you want a flying baby hand wash in the big sink? And for some reason, the toddlers, they seem to remember that flying baby hand wash that you used to do when they were babies, right? Because you always like held them on a hip to wash their hands in the big sink. And they will almost always pick flying baby hand wash if they're feeling like they are not going to go wash. So they'll choose to do that. And put them down and they'll go to their chairs. They can climb into their chairs and buckle them in. They'll also sometimes need to buckle by themselves because they are all now at the age where they like to buckle. When they were babies, you would buckle them. But now they are at the age where they want to buckle, and sometimes those buckles are upside down, and you're trying to get them to. Oh, okay, can we turn this end up? They like to pass out the plates. They like to pick their own bits. We get meals, and we are not quite to the point with this particular group, although we get of them getting 2 scoops of their own breakfast, 1 scoop of yogurt, and a bit of fruit, right? But we will get there. They eat, they wash again. They're on wash rags. They have things that would dry off. Before I pick them up and get yogurt plastered everywhere on me, so we'll get those hands washed up on those wet napkin wash rags, wash again, and then they go play for a little while I clean up the breakfast table. Sometimes they help spray and wash. More spray, so they've got teeny tiny water bottles with this much water in them. As the spray goes here, the spray goes here, the spray goes here. Okay.
So now we're going to watch an example of a transition to mealtime. So watch how Brandy takes the time to individualize this toddler's transition to mealtime, supporting her throughout.
Your chair. That one said he doesn't want to eat, so let's see what happens.
All right.
And I don't know how much was consumed at home. Okay. Do you want Cheerios? Yeah, you usually do. Did you have a snack today at home, or are you just waiting for breakfast? Waiting for breakfast? Can I stir this? Yes. That's okay. I made a mess. There you go. I think June is still under the table. Would you like banana today? Yes? Oh, there she is. She's not under the table.
I think this is a great example of what the transition to mealtime can look like when it's super individualized. Brandy is helping every child independently to the table. There's not a mad rush to sit, and it just feels calmer and slower. So that's why I think this video is extremely valuable, and we'll hear from Brandy later on more about her techniques for supporting group transitions as well. Now we're going to talk about auditory cues, and we're going to hear more. Terry Lynn is going to talk about this later as well. Children learn very, very quickly. They begin to associate sounds with experiences. So if you can tie your daily transitions to a particular sound or a particular song, you are going to have more cooperation, and it will feel smoother for you and your children. So here's just some examples here on the slide. People have written entire books on the topic alone, and there are entire music albums out there dedicated to songs for transitions in the early years. Two of which that are mentioned here on the slide: Transition Times, Songs for Moving On, and Get on Board the Transition Train. That's by Jack Hartman, and that one is on Spotify. So if you don't have a CD player, and if you do, I would encourage you to go to a used bookstore, and you might find these in the children's music section. Also on here, you see just some instruments. There's a single chime there up on the top left, and on the bottom right here, you can see bells that have different pitches. So could you pair a particular bell to a particular transition every single day? This is our breakfast bell. This is our we're going outside bell. And this is actually backed by research, academic research, particularly the connection between music and self-regulation. So children's ability to move to a beat, which is often referred to as beat synchronization, that action supports children's internal self-regulation skills. And this is one reason why music is so advantageous during transition times. Give children a rhythm to move to throughout. Music or singing, some sort of rhythm that helps give them cues and reminders of what's expected to them. And that's going to be physically supporting their internal regulation skills as they transition, as they go from one activity to another. And we're going to see an example of this now. Again, Brandy. Brandy, it's so simple in nature, but it has such big impact what she's doing. Right now she has her hands full, and she's going to have one child who comes in to practice hand washing, and we're going to listen for how Brandy supports this child.
Are you gonna wash your hands, buddy? I'm taking it off. I see. Oh, I'm gonna wipe it clean. It's a little cold. It is a little bit cold, isn't it? Oh. I know. How about you get some soap, Emmerich? There we go. June is looking at you. All right, can you get soap, please? There you go. He's getting soap. Okay, let's start washing our hands, please. Wash my hands, make them nice and clean. First the top, then the bottom, fingers and the toes. All right, can you turn on the water, please? There we go. All right, I'm right here. Oh, we're almost done, June. Almost done. Here we go. Yeah, look at me. I'll snap you up. 1, 2, 3.
And again, you can see on the right-hand side here, Brandy has a sequencing visual that just gives those visual reminders to this child what comes next in the sequence. But I'm sure you could hear after Brandy started singing the hand washing song, that got that child motivated enough to continue on with the process. Again, he was practicing hand washing, and he even started singing it by himself. So music is a very, very powerful thing. And we're going to hear more from Terry Lynn, and I'm sure our panel members about music later on. Our last strategy, like slide that we're going to have before we hear from other voices is just to make it fun by incorporating things like games and movement. Yes, doing this it's going to take a few more minutes, but children and you, it's going to feel you're going to have more engagement and more joy. And here we just have a few simple examples of how you can incorporate more games and movement into transition times to help keep children engaged. So I would encourage you as I start talking, add in the chat other games or movement activities that you currently do. Again, your voice is valuable and we want to hear it. Share your experience with others so that we can have lots of different ideas for movement and games for transition times. So games like I Spy, where someone says, I spy something, and then there's an adjective afterwards. For young children, it's typically colors, like we all know. I spy something blue. And then you have the children guess. It keeps, particularly the older children, as Mary Jo was speaking about earlier on today, it keeps their mind engaged, especially when they're the ones who maybe transition faster because they've had more practice and they have more skills at this point. It keeps their brain engaged so that there's not long moments and long periods of them waiting around. Another one is just Simon Says. Simon says, touch your nose. Simon says, wiggle your ears. And things like that, just to get children moving, get their brains active and engaged. And again, it just takes verbal reminders to do that. And movement challenges, those can help make transitions more fun too. So saying things like, let's take big steps as we walk to the sink today. Or let's tiptoe to our coats and jackets. On the slide here, you can see two examples of movement games. So crawl like a bear and fly like a butterfly. So I made 8 of these. You take Velcro and you stick them to a 8-sided foam die. And Velcro is fun because they can take them off, put them back on, and you can switch them out if you'd like to. And I've seen a large foam dice at Dollar Tree. That's where I got mine. But children love to roll it. It's fun. It's a game and it's a movement activity. And just don't be surprised if once you introduce this, they're just going to want to do it as part of their free play choice that they choose. They want to roll it and crawl like a bear all over the place, fly like a butterfly, and so forth. And finally, dancing, just another way to make it fun. Turn on a song that you know that children enjoy and helps give them those, maybe gives them those auditory cues, those reminders on what's expected of them, like a cleanup song, while you go through your routines. There's entire books dedicated to talking about transitions, such as the one here I recommend on the slide by Dr. Jean Feldman. And I've been seeing some chat messages come through, so thank you. I see Simon says, Kathleen says, my kids enjoy bubblegum in a dish. Red light, green light, that's a fun one. We often will do a count out rhyme to send kids one by one to the snack table. And Tracy says that she has this book and full of transitions. Right. Thank you all for adding some comments. Musical chairs, I see, was one. We have some newcomers, so hopefully I have lots of great ideas from our folks who have lots of experience and ideas on this topic. Bring around the Rosie. Yeah, if you're still typing, keep going. Send them out, and we're going to keep moving on. We're going to hear from Terry Lynn.
Actually, it helps them at any time. If you are feeling cranky yourself, sing. If they are feeling cranky, sing and make it a really silly song, or make it a song that you know that mom sings to them at home if they are feeling like they're missing home, right? So they're grumpy because they really want to be someplace else at the time. but getting them to transition from one thing to the next, those audio cues, if they hear the song, they know what they're doing. It tells them what they're doing. And since it's part of their daily routine, it cues them in a way that just saying, hey, we're going to clean up now, or hey, we're going to have circle time, get over here. No, that doesn't have that. Singing to them, they follow it. Oh, and they don't question it. I don't know why, but it works.
Now we are going to hear from our featured panel. What are your strategies for group transitions? Please give an example.
Well, so again, I mentioned before, my group has birth to 5. So there's a lot of different strategies that have to be used in order to engage that range of children. But my main thing is just kind of to be flexible with group transitions. I don't ever obviously require all of the children to join me at the same time. But rather I'll just kind of throw out, when you're ready, this is my plan next, so that they know what the option is. Whether they come to the transition or the change of events or not, I know they're listening and watching. And so there might be somebody who joins us later. The other thing that I have a super competitive group, and so I try to make it fun for them. So we're solving mysteries all day long. So when I'm ready to transition to the next thing, I'll say, I have a mystery that I need to solve, and I need some detectives. And they'll, the older children are, what can I do? What can I help you with? And so it might be something as simple as, I have 5 pieces of this puzzle, and my mystery is I have no idea where the 6th piece is. And so then they're off and running, trying to solve this mystery with me and compete with each other. And they just get really giddy with that. They love to solve mysteries. And now they'll tell me they have mysteries that need to be solved. And it's usually involving me cleaning up their stuff. But we can turn it around both ways. And they have fun with it, and I have fun with it. The other thing is just to let the children, oftentimes, those transitions that are most difficult, if you put it in their court, like, hey, here's the 5 things that need to happen right now. Which one do you want to choose to do? And giving them, instead of that pushback, if I choose, if they're the ones making the decision, they're much more engaged and want to actually do it. Let's see what else. The other thing, when you're talking about auditory cues, the children help me make playlists. And so I have some really musical children who love to sing. And so we actually have like an entire playlist for getting ready to go outside, or we'll have a playlist for transitioning from eating to nap time. Obviously, that one is bringing everybody down a little bit. We have a playlist for cleanup time. So the children will help me. And if we hear new music, they'll sometimes say, Shannon, can you add that to the playlist for whatever? And so again, it's just kind of involving them in those transitions to help them, know when those transitions are happening and that they were a part of deciding those transitions.
Thank you, Shannon. Let's see, Mary Jo.
So I have a group that's all nonverbal. So it's interesting. I've gone from groups that are very age range like Shannon's group to now a group that I'm doing all the talking and they're just listening. So I do a lot of singing, but we do a morning song that I have picked up, and I really don't know who the singer is or anything, but as I'm helping them put the toys together, I'll be saying, well, when the floor is all cleaned up, then we can all do the morning song. And they are very eager to help put things away with my assistance, because sometimes, you'll find the blocks way over in the kitchen area and so vice versa. And I'll hand it to someone and say, do you remember where this goes? And then that person will take that off. But we then do the morning song, which then leads into the song Walking to the Bathroom, which leads to the song of In the Bathroom. So song is something that we do throughout the day, or I do it, but now I've got a couple of kids that are starting to add in some of their vocalizations, but they'll get there. But song is a great little thing to just perks them all up, and they're all like all ears, is like, okay, I know what's coming next. So
Thank you, Mary Jo. I heard from Shannon, I heard that shared responsibility of creating a playlist, those auditory cues, and for you, just incorporating music throughout to give children those verbal reminders. Next, Maria. Oh, and Maria, I have the information that you wanted up on the slides, so I am going to put that up so people can see.
Ah, sí, ya.
Yes.
Hola, buenas,
Hello,
Bueno,
everyone.
bueno, para mí,
For me,
los consejos que
the
que me han dado a mí mucho
tips you
resultado,
have shared
es
tonight have been useful.
primero que nada, como los
First of all,
niños, hay que familiarizarlos con el
it is very
lugar, con
important
el
that children
cuidado.
get familiar with the
Ellos ya
place,
saben
with
dónde
what's
están
going
sus
to happen, to
pertenencias,
know
dónde
where
están
their
las cosas
toys are going
que
to
son
be,
importantes
and the
para
things that
ellos,
are
los
relevant for
juguetes,
them,
dónde
among
están las
other
actividades que
things.
quieren hacer.
The activities, where are they going to be held? The activities
Gradualmente,
they want
algunas
to do.
veces
Gradually,
hay que hacerlo como individual con algunos
sometimes you have to
niños,
work on an individual
porque
basis with
como
certain children,
somos de un
because
daycare, un home
since
daycare es
we
como
are
su
a home
segundo
daycare,
hogar.
this is like their second
Entonces,
home.
ellos se tienen que sentir como
They
en su
need to
casa,
feel as if
pero
they were
con
home,
rutinas y
but of
con
course following
orden, como
routines and
decimos.
following a certain order.
Algunas veces los niños pequeños
Sometimes
pues tienen
toddlers
actividades
or
de
small
menor
children
tiempo, cuando
have
los niños
activities with
mayores
less time.
ocupan más tiempo.
Older children take more
Entonces
time.
necesitamos buscar
So
como un
that's why
espacio
we
que
need to find a
ellos puedan
space
trabajar
in
y
which they're
tener
able to
su tiempo, su
hold their
espacio.
activities, have enough time, have
Y
enough
igual los
space,
pequeños
and
también
the
tengan
toddlers or
su
small
rutina,
children
pero
can have
siempre y
their
cuando sean en el
routine
mismo horario.
as long as it happens on the same time
Proporcionarles
slots.
seguridad
Provide them
tanto a
safety,
los pequeños como a los más
both for
grandecitos,
toddler
porque
or
son
small
de
children
diferentes
and
edades.
older
Entonces,
children, because we have
tenemos que ser
different
como
age
magos.
ranges. So we are kind
Eh,
of magicians, if you
y
like.
también podemos
And
cambiar las
sorry,
rutinas,
and we can also
porque
change
a veces pueden
routines
ser
because
predecibles.
sometimes
A lo
they
mejor
can be
porque el niño
predictable.
no se siente bien en ese
Well,
día,
sometimes
a
you
lo
have a
mejor
child that is not feeling well
porque
that day,
no tiene ganas de hacer esa actividad y quiere
or
hacer otra
doesn't feel
actividad.
like doing
Entonces
one
también
activity
podemos
and wants to
cambiar
engage in a different
en ese
activity.
momento
So
la
we
rutina,
need to be
pero
flexible to
tenemos
change
que
the
como ir caminando
routine,
juntos.
but we need to
Ah,
move together, to
practicar,
walk
pasar de
together.
una rutina a otra.
We need
Es
to practice
como el
passing from one routine
diario,
to another.
trabajar con
It's a
ellos
daily
porque
work to
cada uno
work
tiene su forma de
alongside
ser,
them,
su
because each one of
carácter.
them have their own
Entonces,
personality,
a
their own
veces
character. So
son
sometimes
niños con mucha
we have
energía y a
children with a
veces son
lot
niños
of
muy
energy,
tranquilos.
and some other
Entonces
times they're
tenemos que
quiet.
tratar de combinar
So we need to
esos momentos y
combine
ese carácter.
these moments.
Considerar el flujo del
So
día y eliminar
also
transiciones
consider
innecesarias, porque a
the flow
veces
of the
los
day,
niños
and sometimes
están
we need
tan
to get rid of
enfocados y
unnecessary
tan
transitions, because sometimes children are
concentrados
so
en el
focused
juego que a lo mejor
on
necesitan
playing that
5 minutos
maybe they
más
need 5
y
more
no
minutes,
importa si el
and it's
tiempo
okay,
tiene que ser exacto, hay que
because
darles un
we
poco de
need
tiempo
to give
y
them enough
entonces cuando
time.
ellos ya
So
dicen,
once they
ya cinco
say,
minutos y
oh, okay,
decirles,
5 minutes
cinco
left,
minutos y ya vamos
and
a
we
lavarnos
indicate,
las
we give that
manos.
hint, and then
Y
we need to stop
bueno, eso es lo que
doing what we're
resulta
doing and
mucho,
go
porque a
and
veces
wash
los
our
niños
hands.
están
because
tan
sometimes, as I
entretenidos y
said,
están
children are so
jugando y su
entertained,
juego es
they're
tan
playing,
interesante.
and their game is so
Es
interesting
un
for them.
momento que no
So this
quiero
is a moment I
como
don't want
romper
to interrupt
ese
or
momento
break
de
that
juego de
magic
ellos
moment of
y
playing.
trato de darles
And
más
that's why
tiempo.
I try to maybe
Entonces,
give some additional
a lo
minutes.
mejor me tardo 5 o
So I
15
may take
minutos más,
5 or 10
pero
minutes more,
no,
but
no creo que
I don't
importe.
think that's I mean it's going
Y
to change
bueno,
things
reconectar a
dramatically.
los niños
So
con muchos
and it's important to
abrazos,
connect children through
am,
talks and
hablarles, siempre decir,
speaking to
ay,
them, always
estamos
saying
jugando, ¿a qué estamos
we are
jugando?
playing and
O ¿qué
asking
estás
them what are we
haciendo? Ay, qué
playing or what are you
bonito.
doing
Y a lo mejor
or
el otro
wow
grupo
it's
está trabajando
and
en la
at the same time
cocinita
you may have
y
the other
está
group working in the
comiendo. ¿Y qué
small kitchen
comes? Ay,
space
vamos a
and
comer,
maybe we
¿quieres
have
café?
questions
Porque,
are
pues
you
no sé por qué me
eating
dicen que sí quiero café, pero me
and
dicen,
they
¿quieres
ask me
café?
if I want coffee.
Con leche, bueno,
Would you like
y
coffee and
jugamos un
milk?
ratito aquí y
And so
otro
we
ratito
play
acá y así.
for a moment here
Y,
and there,
y
and that's
animarlos
what we
siempre a que
do.
sean
And
ellos
always
independientes y a
encourage
que ellos
them to be independent,
quieran hacer cosas individuales
to explore things
y que
individually,
ellos estén
and so that
interesados
they are
en
interested
hacer lo mismo. A
or keep
veces
them
ellos
engaged.
mismos dicen,
Sometimes they say,
están hablando como yo, como si fuera
"Oh,
yo. Ay,
they
qué
are
cosa
speaking
tan
as if
linda. Ay, estás
they are the teacher,
precioso.
saying, 'Oh, how
No, hay
beautiful is
que
this?'
tomar tiempo porque
So we
ya
need
va
to
a ser
take
la hora de comer y están
time
jugando, pero es muy
and
divertido.
indicate.
Los niños,
Yeah, so it's fun.
nosotros aprendemos mucho de los
We
niños
learn a lot. We
y yo
learn a great
siempre
deal
estoy
from
riendo
children,
con
and I'm
ellos.
always laughing with the funny things they say, among other things.
Y bueno, y tener
And
canciones, yo siempre tengo canciones
using
de la
using
mañana,
songs is useful. I always
de
sing
la
songs
comida, de lavar las
uh,
manos, de
early in the
recoger,
morning, before
de
washing
si
hands,
eres
before collecting
positivo y por
toys.
ejemplo a la mañana les canto
In the morning, I use a
sol,
song with them.
solecito,
This song that
calienta
she's
muy
singing.
bonito.
The
Hoy
sun
y mañana, toda
brings
la
heat
semana. Y les repito
because
los
every
días.
week, and I keep
Lunes,
repeating this
martes,
song. And this
miércoles,
song also mentions
jueves,
days: Monday,
viernes,
Tuesday, Wednesday,
sábado y
Thursday,
domingo
Friday,
también.
Saturday, and Sunday
Y
as
ya
well.
después para
And
limpiar, uso la
before
canción de
cleaning, we
a
have
limpiar
a
todo,
song
todo
that
en su
is
lugar.
that
A
she's singing. Cleaning, cleaning,
limpiar
cleaning,
todo,
putting
todo a
things
su lugar.
in their place.
Y ya cuando estamos
And when we
para lavarle
are
las manos, entonces
before washing
a
hands,
lavar, todo
it's very
mundo a
important
lavar las
to clean our
manitas,
hands.
la carita
Everybody
y
needs to clean
también
their hands,
una
to wash their
sonrisa.
hands, to wash their face, and have a smile.
Y para despedirnos,
And
hasta
before we say goodbye,
mañana, ya
this
me
other
voy,
song,
hasta
Farewell. We're
mañana,
going home.
otra
Bye
vez.
bye.
Y
Again.
así todos los días.
And every
Y
day
tengo para
we
todo,
use
así
these
que
songs. And I have songs for
nunca
everything.
terminaría, pero
I can
me
keep
gusta mucho
singing
cantar
the
con
whole
los
night.
niños.
So I love to sing
Y
with the
pues
children.
mis papás, por
And
ejemplo,
my parents,
quieren que sus niños aprendan español, así
the
que
parents
todo el tiempo
of
estoy
children in my
hablándoles
program,
español hasta a los
want
papás.
their children to learn
Y
Spanish. So I'm
trato
always speaking in Spanish also
de
to them.
que
So
los
I
niños
try
tengan
the children can have
una buena vocalización de,
a,
aunque
a
a
good
veces
enunciation.
dicen bla, 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 y no les entiendo nada,
Sometimes they
pero yo sé
babble
qué
and
me
I
están
may not
diciendo.
understand, but like no, I try
Es
to
muy,
help
muy
them to
bonito trabajar
pronounce
con los
things. So
niños. A
it's
mí me
beautiful
encanta, me gusta mucho.
to work with children. I
Pero
love
sí, la verdad que
my job.
es realmente
It is
complicado trabajar
truly
con niños de
challenging
diferente edad,
times working with children
más
with a different
cuando yo
age
trabajaba
range.
con niños de 4
Especially,
años
for
o
example, I
3
used to
años
work
nada
with
más.
children who
Y
were
son
3 or 4 years
7 o
old
6 niños y,
and
ay,
6 or 7
sí que tengo
children
que hacer mucho
approximately.
trabajo,
So it's a lot of work,
pero
I have to say.
las rutinas
But
son muy
routines
buenas,
are
son
really good,
muy buenas
are
porque
really, really beneficial
hacen que las
because
cosas fluyan muy
it
rápido y los
help
niños
you
aprendan
and
muchísimo
things flow and children
desde
have the opportunity to
pequeñitos.
learn a great deal.
Son muy bonitos, muy bonito.
It's very
La verdad
beautiful
que
to work
yo trabajo
with
bastante
children. I work a
Y
lot.
digo, no saben,
And yes,
todos
it's
los días
great.
termino hasta las 5:30 de la
Every
tarde y
day, working
no se
hard
quieren
until
ir.
5:30.
Y yo ya
The
quiero,
children don't want
ay,
to go
adiós.
home.
Pero la
And
rutina sí, hasta yo misma me gusta porque
routines
yo digo,
are
ay, ya va a ser
useful
la hora
even for me
de
as a
X, la
teacher
hora de esto y
because I am waiting for
cuando vi,
specific moments of the
ya es
day. Oh,
tarde,
this is
ya
the
se
time
va
to
el
do
día
this or that.
tan rápido.
And suddenly, wow,
Y creo que
the day
sin las
comes to an
rutinas
end.
y los
And
cambios
without
son
the
más fáciles
routines,
para
transitions
nosotras y
would
para los
be
niños,
more difficult
porque los
for us
niños
and for children
es una parte
because
súper
this
importante
is a key
de
element, routines,
cómo se desarrollan,
the way things unfold during the
cómo nos
day.
ayuda a nosotras también
How is
a
this
estar
helpful
mucho
for
más
us
relajadas,
to be more relaxed?
de verdad.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you, Maria. Gracias.
See,
All right, Brandy.
I'll just go with my hardest transition of the day, which is when I'm done preparing lunch and then getting them to the table to eat. And that's when we have our main cleanup for the day. Like we don't do a lot of cleanup before that unless we can't walk through a room. And I used to just, I have a visual timer that's 5 minutes, and I would give a 5-minute warning, and then they would all clean up to the cleanup song on repeat. While I finished up lunch, but now I only have I have one child that like cleans up well, and the rest of them play at it. And so she was getting pretty frustrated with cleaning up after everything. So now I wait until everything is cooked. Like I have everything prepared and ready to go on the table, and the visual timer is already counted down. And then it beeps. It's got like a beep or a ding on it. And then we play the cleanup song, and I go out and I help with the cleanup, and I encourage the 2-year-olds to pick up something that they were playing with or to put the books away or whatnot, and we just do it together, and then we move on. Again, when there's older children involved, when I have more older children, then it's a much easier process, but that's what we're doing now.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else like to add, expand on before we move on? Okay. We are going to again go to our panel to talk about a scenario. We're going to do a scenario together, and I'm going to read it. I have sort of a mock visual. I'm a visual person. Just to give you some cues here on the slide, and Laura's going to send the prompt in the chat, and then we're going to ask our featured panel how they would transition. So I'm going to start by reading. So you set up a supervised art experience at the table. You are going to offer children the opportunity to draw on reflective surfaces like a large mirror and CDs, but it must be supervised. Your program's children are playing in the adjacent room. 2 preschoolers and a toddler are engaged in a dramatic play scheme in which they are planning a birthday party. Another toddler is over here dumping out a bin of toys, and an infant is exploring a ring stacker on the floor. How would you transition? I'm going to ask our featured panel, would anyone like to start?
I can start. I guess in this situation, this is very true to my everyday. But all I would do is sit down and start doing the art. The children are always checking on me to see what I'm doing and what I'm working on. And so if I sit down and start doing an experience like this, it's only a matter of time before everybody checks in with me and asks what I'm doing and if they can participate and ask questions about, why I'm doing it. And so I just kind of sit myself down and don't say anything, and they kind of gravitate toward me for those that want to.
Thanks, Shannon. Brandy, you wanted to go next?
Sure. Actually, I do the exact same thing as Shannon. I don't make any of them come by me. And I usually set up art things after breakfast at the table, and the children already know that. So they kind of check to see if it's already set up. They check to see if it's something that they like to do. And then they're kind of waiting to see when I start. But if they're already engaged in activities, I wouldn't stop their activity to come to the table with me. But I would exactly do what Shannon does.
Thanks, Brandy. Sounds like you have a routine of typically after breakfast, the children know, and it's consistent and they're expecting it. Thank you. Anyone else like to jump in and add how they may transition?
I will.
In my group, whenever I start putting something out, I don't even, just like Shannon and Brandy, I don't have to say anything. They're already coming over and going, oh, what is she doing? What's she doing? So I don't really introduce it to them in a, like, they just come around and then I just say, well, these are the things that you can do with this. And then go from there.
Thanks, Mary Jo. Allison, did you want to add something?
No, I think it would just be echoing what, the previous providers have said. I think if it just so happens that the children are so immersed that they don't notice what I'm doing, I might just announce like, hey, I have some cool art if you guys want to come check it out, just to get their attention. But again, the same thing, like I have my own daughters in the program as well. So they kind of are a little bit like magnets and always kind of following what's going on. So
Thanks, Allison. Maria, did you want to add anything? And it's okay if you don't want to add anything, but want to just hold space because I think Kay Anthony would like to share. You raised your hand.
Yeah, so I just always keep in mind the different type of learners I have, which is, seeing if they're a visual, audio, or they're hands-on, or a combination of both. So I always make up a song for the most part for whatever we doing to help them be engaged and know what's going on. So I'm real big on I do it, we do it, now you do it. So I always explain so they can see or understand what's going on in different contexts, along with just being like we talked about, giving them choices because they may want to do it, but the way I'm doing it may not be the way they can do it, or it could be a new way for me learning from their experience to how they like to do things. So just still explaining and letting them see, and then showing them, and then letting them show me how they like to do stuff.
Great, thank you. Thank you. The only thing I'll add is that I realized this after I read this prompt a couple times, and I was the one who wrote it, but I was like, oh, you could try to like add some sort of component. Oh, maybe we should make invitations for your birthday party because I only read it once, so maybe you didn't catch it, but there were 3 children who were playing and their idea was they're planning a birthday party. So could you try to meet them at that dramatic scheme that they've got going on and pull them in that way? So enter their play and offer the choice to expand on it through an art activity. And maybe they won't, and maybe they will. But similar to Allison, making it known that it's available. But it sounds like just from what Shannon, Mary Jo, and Brandy, you were all saying, just because children are constantly checking in with you, just sitting down and starting it is enough to pull children, especially for something like this, where it's an optional art experience that is available for children. Thank you. All right. I want to make sure we have time to talk about our last question for the panel. And that is, how do smooth transitions impact you as the educator? So Allison, will you start us off? please.
Yeah, so this one I think is really important to me because so many of us are alone in what we do all day. And if we don't have smooth transitions, it impacts us so much. And as you know, like the calmer and more centered we are, the happier and like healthier our kids are going to be. So I used to get really frustrated by my last transition of the day, which was, if you guys can remember a time where we could go outside, we would end our days outside. And so it was the transition of towards the end of the day after snack and everything, we're getting ready to go outside and play, and the parents are going to pick up from outside. And that transition was just driving me nuts because you have to have everything to go home with you outside. And I have a pretty big age group as well. So it was getting them up the basement stairs and then outside. And then the way my home is, we have to walk around the house to the backyard. And so that can take like 25 minutes on a good day. And so I would find myself like really frazzled. And so one day I just wrote out like the whole transition of what needed to be done. And I was able to really see like what things I could take on myself that would make it easier for the children. So like getting the baby car seats onto my back deck so I didn't have to carry them around the house. I could just access them myself real quickly. Little things like that, that then it let my focus be on preparing just the children. I wasn't grabbing all the backpack and the attendants and the car seats. I was just like helping the children do what they needed to do. And then I think too, the other thing we have to remember is that the transition is the main event for the children. I think as providers, we want to rush through it. Like, we need to get outside. We need to have our outside time, or hurry up, hurry up. And we're missing like the main event. Like they are putting their shoes on the wrong feet and then we're fixing them. And that was like a whole event for them to learn from. So I think once you allow yourself and give yourself that permission to like take the time, calm down, then I think it will just change your whole perspective. And so as a provider, the more that you can prepare on the front end, the smoother I think it is. And it makes just a happier provider and a happier group of kids too. So.
Thank you, Allison. Maria, would you like to answer this question? How does smooth transitions impact you?
Pues, como lo había dicho
Well,
antes,
as I said
tener
before,
un tiempo,
having
exactamente,
time,
darle el
yes,
tiempo
time,
a
and
los
giving
niños y a
time
nosotras
to
mismas,
kids
tener
and
o ser
ourselves.
muy organizado
We
todo
must be
desde
very
un día
well
antes
organized along
para
with
poder
the
tener todo
students in
preparado,
order to have
porque
everything
no podemos andar
prepared.
corriendo, ay, que está
Because
aquí,
we
que no
cannot
encontré las cucharas, que dónde
be
están
in
los
a
platos,
constant
que
rush
dónde
with
está esto, dónde
the
está el otro,
dishes, with the spoons and this and
todo,
that.
todo en su lugar,
So
y
everything must be
también
in
todas las
its
cosas de los
proper
niños en su
place,
lugar para
and
que
that
puedan
includes the toys
ocurrir
and the
todas
items and belongings
el
of
tiempo y las
of
transiciones
the
en orden.
kids,
O
and to
sea
have the
que
transitions in
dar un
order
aviso
as
con
well,
tiempo,
and
usar una
to
cuenta
use
para, bueno, yo que tengo,
the
olvido muchas
counting.
veces cosas
Sometimes I'm
y tengo que
forgetting
tener
something, so
todo
I
anotado.
need to remember, or even to have some
Usar
notes
señales
here and there, or to
verbales y
use
no verbales,
some verbal and
usar una
non-verbal
canción, como yo
signs,
les había dicho,
and to use
canciones,
songs, as I
canciones,
said before.
música,
We can use songs and
música,
music
mucha
as simple
música.
as that. We can use
Ah,
many
establecer
songs
rutinas
to
de
establish
bienvenida, de
routines
despedida,
or welcome,
animar a los niños a ser
to
independientes,
goodbyes, and to
reconectar
encourage
con los niños
students to be
con
independent,
abrazos
to
y
use
palabras
hugs,
y y tener mucha paciencia.
and of course to have patience.
Es todo.
Mm,
Thank you,
to have
Maria.
vast patience. Thank you, Maria.
All right, Mary Jo.
Sorry. I think that what Allison said is very true, that the transition is the thing that for that particular child or children is the main event. And then if it goes smoothly, you as the provider get an opportunity to breathe and have a chance to just relax. But then also in that process, you as the educator can assess and kind of connect with individual children to also be able to figure out, okay, what is it that he or she may need during this transition that I'm not giving them? How can we do that? And so when a transition goes smoothly, you're able to see those things a little bit better. Whereas when it doesn't go smoothly, you're getting more frustrated in the whole process.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Brandy.
Well, I mean, obviously smooth transitions just make everything more harmonious everywhere. I mean, the babies aren't crying and nobody's whining or fussing or yelling or pushing. Um, and it wasn't that long ago that I stopped looking at the clock all the time and saying, we have to get outside, we have to eat lunch right now, we have to, because I would get frustrated and then it didn't make things go very smoothly. And I was at a Wisconsin Family Child Care Association conference, and Diane Gannon was speaking, and she's like, we're here all day. I got 10, 11-hour days. She's like, we're here. So let it just happen. And I don't know why I found at that point in my life, that was just brilliant that she said that. And I did, I just kind of backed down. I calmed down, I backed off, I calmed down. And I just, every day is different. You know, it might take us 10 minutes to get outside. It might take us 25 minutes, but we'll get out there and we'll still have lunch and we'll still nap and we'll still do all the things. And it just makes it a whole lot easier to do my job, and it makes everybody happier here too.
Thank you, Brandy. Shannon, close us out.
Well, I just had to giggle listening because today, for example, you know, we had a really great day. We couldn't go outside, but everybody was just kind of like so peaceful and harmonious, and we weren't rushed. And the day just kind of, like you said, developed on its own. And then, you know, you're in the moment and it feels wonderful. But then, like, all of a sudden, the parents started showing up, and all these kids' heads started spinning, and they started screaming, and they started like throwing their bodies all over, and I'm like, this transition is not great. And so, like, when you compare like how children can regulate themselves among each other when they're not stressed and when they have the time, and how beautiful that is, and then all of a sudden, you know, the parents are there with their eyes on their watches or their phones and rush 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 rush, and how it just impacts the children just like on the flip of a switch. And so, you know, at that, it was, you know, I was coming into this thinking, you know, that is a great example of how when you allow children to do those transitions on their own independently without being rushed, how beautiful it is, and how the stress of a day or parents coming out of a stressful day can totally impact how children transition as well. And so, yeah, just giving them the time and the space that they need to have those transitions happen without being rushed or pushed in a direction that's not comfortable to them at that time really does impact the day quite a bit.
Thank you. Thank you all very much, our featured panel members, and all of you who are here with us today participating. I just thank you all. These 2 hours flew by. We are already at time. I want to make sure that all of you have the opportunity to complete our evaluation. Let us know what you thought of tonight's event. Even if you do not need 2 hours of registry credit, please fill it out and let us know what you thought. Laura Cruz has put that in the chat. And while you're filling that out, Mary Jo, you can say no. Will you sing your morning song for us?
The morning song that we
Yes. Kathleen asked.
I was actually trying to look it up because it's a variation of a song, and I can't talk real well right now. I've got some
That's
sinus
okay. It's
going
okay.
on.
You can say no.
So, but it just starts off. These you have to understand. I'm dealing with toddlers, so we start off and we're going clap, clap, clap your hands early in the morning, and by then they're already clapping their hands, and then it goes on, and we're just wiggling our fingers and going la 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 la. And then the next section is stomp, stomp, stomp your feet. And then we're ending with swinging our arms. And then we go back to clapping our hands. And at that point, they know they're heading to the door because then I start the next song, which is this is the way we walk to the bathroom, walk to the bathroom. And then you always have one that runs. So you have to take their hand and help them walk, or they're helping you walk. So that's my morning song. I think it's a variation of a song that I had heard on a tape a long, long time ago.
Thanks,
So.
Mary Jo. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bravo.